Okay, so I'm going to do a tier ranking video. These tend to be quite popular, and I like ranking stuff as well. We're gonna do the Cosmere right now. I've actually finished the Cosmere ages ago. In fact, I've always wanted to do this, but I kept holding off on it for one reason, and that's that I haven't read White Sand yet. Now, there's a reason for this. I like reading stuff in paperback copies, especially because White Sand is a graphic novel, right? I could get the Kindle edition, but the Kindle edition is like almost the same price as the paperback edition. And if you know White Sand, it's almost impossible to get. Like, it's literally impossible to get every single copy of this in the same edition. Is either hardbacks available and no paperbacks, or paperbacks available and no hard. It's kind of a mess. I'm just holding out hope that the Kindle editions will like drop in price, or maybe we'll get like a combined edition sometime soon. But unfortunately, I'm not gonna rank White Sand. But I have read everything else in the Cosmere, and I remember most of it, and most of my opinions about each of them have kind of been formed so far. So let's get to it. Let's get to it. Let's start off. How do we start this off? Should we start it off with hmm? Start it off with chronological order, in release order, actually. So Elantris. I'm not going to do Arcano about it because we've got all the short stories and novellas here already, so that's fine. Elantris. We're already starting off with quite a heavy topic. Elantris is like it's the bane of my existence. In terms of the Cosmere, I have the most opinions on Elantris. Like, I'm currently working on like a script on an Elantris video on my opinions, just me dissecting this book. Because on the one hand, Elantris, out of all the Cosmere stories, and I will stand by this opinion, has the greatest concept out of any of the other Cosmere books. Like, just the concept of Elantris and the themes and ideas that you could tackle with that single concept. This book tackles themes of proselytism. I hope I said that right. It tackles themes of religion, social hierarchies within here. Now, some of the characters stand out here, some do not. However, the ones that do stand out could have been handled so much better. Elantris is one of those books where if there's any book here that BrandonSanderson could rewrite, like him right now, with all the skills and knowledge he's garnered and all the experience he has from writing for more than a decade, if he were to rewrite any book in his library, Elantris would benefit the most, to the point where I think it could potentially be one of the greatest things in the Cosmere. However, unfortunately, what we have right now is quite a rough draft of the story. I don't think it's quite there yet. Although I would be really excited for a Elantris sequel, and I hope it tackles some of the ideas and concepts I wanted this book to push further. However, unfortunately, it is on the weaker side for me. I'll get into my reasons why. I don't hate this book, but I can't say that I like it. I do have nostalgia. For a book that I put on D tier, for some reason I have nostalgia on this. I'll get into this later when you see my Elantris video, whenever that comes out. But yeah. Okay, and after that we'll do Hope of Elantris. Where is Hope of Elantris? It's Hope of Elantris. Yes, Hope of Elantris here. This is fine. It's quite sentimental. He did this. It was dedicated. I think this was dedicated to like a student of his wife, and this student read Elantris, and I think this was dedicated to her. It's quite sweet. Um, it's fine. It's a short story. It's okay. It's set during the events of Elantris. Doesn't do much for me, to be honest. Okay, now we got Mistborn. I really enjoy Mistborn trilogy. The original Mistborn trilogy is solid. Like, it's a solid trilogy. I think I think the first Mistborn book is great, although I think is the most overrated Mistborn book. It's great, but I think it's a slightly overrated. I think when people view Mistborn, they think of the entire trilogy when they rank the first book. I'm just strictly thinking about this first book. It's fine. I think there was a bit too much of the ballroom scenes for me. I would have liked a bit more exploration of Vin and her struggle as, her tragic backstory. I think it would have been nice to delve into that a little bit more. It does delve into that. I would have liked a bit more of that. Kelsey is fine. I think he is like one of the most has like the most notoriety in terms of the Cosmere, because this man is just, I don't even know where to begin with Calcia, and he's a great character. I'm not part of this Calcia cult, this hype of Calcia, but he's fine. It's a good introduction. This is a solid introduction. It is well paced. It's well structured. I think there's one too many ballroom scenes. There are so many ballroom scenes in this book. It's solid. It's solid. It's fine. I'm not gonna delve into this too much. Well of Ascension is the best Mistborn book. I am shocked. I'm shocked that the majority of the fan base thinks this is the weakest Mistborn book in the trilogy, and they go as far as to say this has middle book syndrome. I don't understand that. Like, I see all the time, like, everyone says, oh, I'm a character-driven reader. I like reading books that is focused on character. Well of Ascension is the most character-driven book in the Mistborn trilogy, and it is the best one for that reason. Exploring the darker side of Vin, all these political maneuverings, the siege outside, there's always something going on. Even BrandonSanderson tends to do this trope of the imposter storyline. The imposter storyline, it was done like first in this one, and it has never been topped. Like, the imposter storyline in this is the best in the entire Cosmere, in my opinion. Well of Ascension is the best Mistborn book. As soon as I read that first chapter of Well of Ascension, I already knew this was going to be 100 times better than the original Mistborn. And the original Final Empire was a great book, but Well of Ascension, it's great. I love Well of Ascension. Hero of Ages. I really do like Hero of Ages. I think, for me, what I love about Hero of Ages is the sense of dread you get. Like, in no Cosmere book did I truly feel this apocalyptic end of the world. Like, it's depressing as hell. It's dour. And there are moments in this book you're genuinely like, I don't know how they're going to get out of this. And I appreciate that. Although, for me, the final 100 pages of this book are so stacked and so dense. It's great, but I wish it was spread out a bit more. There's so much going on in those that last leg, in that last section. If it was spread out a bit more, if that was the second half of the story, and if Tensoon and Spook's storyline was connected a bit more to Vin's, I would have liked this a bit more. I think this is a bit short of perfection for me. I do love the ending of Hero of Ages, but I think this book needed a bit more time in the editing room. I think it needed a bit more time to be structured. I like this better than the Final Empire, but am I willing to put A tier? So I'm gonna put it above Final Empire. I'll go over this. I'll go over everything afterwards. Just to sort it out. But for now, I'll put it at top of B. Warbreaker is the most underrated book in the Cosmere. I love Warbreaker. So, if you don't know, Mistborn Trilogy was the first entry I had in the Cosmere. I read Mistborn and I didn't even know what the Cosmere was. I just thought Mistborn was Mistborn. And then when I found out it's this interconnected universe, I was like, okay, I want to get into this because I enjoyed the Mistborn Trilogy. And everyone kept saying, and the best next thing to read is Warbreaker, because it was released right after Hero of Ages. And man, I love Warbreaker. For a standalone book, you are so invested in these characters. There are 4 main characters, and every single one of them is you just understand them, you empathize with them, you're interested in all 4 of them. There's not one that you're like, oh, I don't really care about this one, I'm just really reading it from this one perspective. All 4 characters are amazing. All 4 of them are so well balanced to the fact that 2 of them utilize the magic system in this book, and 2 of them don't. And the 2 that don't are still such amazing active protagonists. This book flows so well, it's so well structured. The magic system is great, it's simple to understand, but there's so much you can do with it. It's one of those short fire concepts like alchemy. Alchemy and Fullmetal Alchemist is my favorite magic system of all time, and it all stems down to one basis, which is equivalent exchange. In Warbreaker, it's breath, like awakening inanimate objects, and from that he stems it into so much broad territory from that, just that one little concept. And I love magic systems like that. Like Warbreaker, in just one book, you get so much world building, so much culture. I love Warbreaker. I think it's an almost perfect book. I'm putting it S tier. It's just, I wish more people can see why Warbreaker is as good as it is. It's one of the top tier Cosmere, in my opinion. Alright, after Warbreaker, we get Way of Kings, the big boy. But this is S tier. This is S tier. This is 100%. This is above Warbreaker 100%. The Way of Kings is one of the best entries into any big fantasy series of all time. Just the origin story of Kaladin in this book alone is deserves to be an S tier. And then you got Dalinar in the mix. Shallan's stuff is fine. Over time, I've appreciated Shallan's storyline in this. I know it's not the favorite storyline in here, but I appreciate it over time. Way of Kings is solid. Like, from the moment I read that book, I didn't need any adjustment period or anything. I instantly loved that book from like the first chapter I read. You know, that prologue chapter, one of the best prologue chapters I've ever read in a fantasy book. What a way to open your big series. Alright, after that, we'll do Stormlight Archive and then just to make things easier, because I know Era 2 was released in between this Stormlight books, so let's do Words of Radiance. This is an almost perfect. This is a perfect book. Words of Radiance is a perfect book. It's the fan favorite for a reason. Like, I'm not gonna be edgy and like, oh no, because everyone likes this one. I'm gonna try to pick out faults on it just because I'm trying to be. No, Words of Radiance is perfect. It's a perfect book. It is perfection. Actually, I might put Will of Ascension here because I'm just realizing how amazing these books are. Will of Ascension is great, but these three books are just they've got they just got that extra thing with them, you know. Will of Ascension is great though. Don't get me wrong. A tier is very commendable. We got Oathbringer. Oathbringer is another book I want to talk about. It's another book I want to make a video about. A lot of people have opinions on this. If you say Oathbringer is your least favorite Cosmere book or your least favorite Stormlight Archive book, I kind of understand where you're coming from. I would understand why. If you say it's your favorite one, I also understand why. Oathbringer, when I finished Oathbringer, I enjoyed it. I loved it. There was something off with it. I know what's off because it's huge. This book is a Goliath. I think it's the longest Stormlight Archive book to date. There's so much going on with it. It does not flow as well as the other ones. I think there are a lot of structural issues with this. And for me, it tends to focus on things that don't need as much emphasis on, like Dalinar trying to unite Roshan and whatnot, and talking to all these other countries like Thaylana and trying to unite them under the one banner, right? In favor of that, it ignores some stuff that was set up in the previous book, like with Shallan's brother, and that stuff just kind of gets ignored and we don't get payoff for that. My main problem with Oathbringer is its priorities. I don't think it has its priorities right. It needs to prioritize storylines a bit more, and I think that's the fundamental flaw of Oathbringer, but it's still such a solid book. It's still so epic. It's so epic. I love the final battle of Oathbringer. It's so awesome. I don't care if people complain about how like MCU Avengers. I don't care. It's awesome. Shit is crazy, and I loved it. But Oathbringer, I'll put it B. I think it sits well in B. I don't know. I'm gonna put it. I'm gonna put it right behind Will of Ascension. Rhythm of War. Now, I do like Rhythm of War, but for me, the reason why this is my least favorite Stormlight Archive book to date is that despite the fact that Oathbringer has structural issues and has issues with its priorities, Rhythm of War kind of lost a bit of the magic for me. I lost a bit of that Stormlight magic. You know, Stormlight Archive, at its core, is a story about character. That's why each flashback character we get in each book, it doesn't focus on flashbacks on the world building or some pivotal event in history. The flashbacks are purely focused on character, on what made them who they are, and the personal turmoil they had to go through. The magic system itself is purely based on the character's mental health. These characters are broken, and the fact that they're broken is what makes them our main characters, what makes them gain these gains these abilities. And character is at the heart of each book in the Stormlight Archive. That's why Way of Kings is Kaladin's book, Words of Radiance is Shallan's book, and Oathbringer is Dalinar's book. But that was missing in Rhythm of War. It's there, but not to the same effect, not even to nearly the same effect. And for me, That's why Rhythm of War lost a bit of the magic for me. I'm a bit nervous about book 5. I'm excited as hell. I'm so excited for book 5. And I have so much faith in Brandon Sanderson. But I want book 5 to be a Way of Kings. I want it to be a Words of Radiance. I want it to be an Oathbringer. I want it, at its core, I want it to be an epic fantasy with all these POVs, but at its core, I want it to be a character-focused book. I hope he nails it with Zeph. We've waited a long time for Zeph's backstory, so I have a lot of hope for book 5. But Venli in this didn't impress me. I do love Navani in this book, and Kaladin's journey, so many emotions, but I don't know, there's something missing with Rhythm of War. This is another book I want to make a video on. This and Elantris especially. Alright, I think that's the main line, Stormlight Archive done. Let's do the novellas. So, Edge Dancer takes place right after Words of Radiance. It's fine. I like Lift. She's kind of prissy. I put it here. I like Lift. I know people Lift is a controversial character. I think she's funny. Dawn Shard. I like Edge Dancer a little bit better because I think it flows better. The reason I would put Dawn Shard above Edge Dancer, but for me, I think if it focused on Risen a bit more and it cut back more on Lopin. I like Lopin, but I don't think he needed to be in this book. I like the Cosmere connections in here, but for me, it feels like the intent of this novella is for that Cosmere connections, right? For the wider Cosmere storylines, and I kind of wanted it to be a bit more Stormlight focused for me. I don't like it when a Cosmere connection is the story and it kind of hinders some of the character work. When it starts affecting the story that way, that's when I'm not a fan of it. And that's my problem with Dawn Shard. That's why I'm going to put it a little bit behind Edge Dancer. Let's do 11th Metal first. So 11th Metal is, technically speaking, takes place before the Final Empire. It's got Kelsier in it. We see him and his mentor. I like some of the parallels, like some of the lessons his mentor taught him is the same lesson he taught to Vin. I like those parallels. It's fine. It's fine. I'll put it here. Elemental Jack. Yeah, I'll put it there. I like the concept of it, but it's just a fun thing. It's like supposed to be a spoof of the Alamancer Jack magazines that we see in the newspaper, that we see in Mistborn Era 2. It's a good concept. It didn't really make me laugh that much. Alright, let's do Secret History, which takes place after Hero of Ages. I'm sorry, I'm not doing this in chronological order at all. I just realized, or release order. I'm so sorry. This takes place after Hero of Ages. God, I have so many opinions about Secret History. This is too desperate to be intimately tied in with the original trilogy, and it kind of hinders some quite climactic moments in Hero of Ages, especially like, for example, like one character's decision in Hero of Ages. It was like a really climactic moment. It's very like a big character moment. And in Secret History, it's like, oh, but there's this outside force that kind of affected and pushed this person to do it. And then that's when I was like, you're being so tied into the main trilogy and trying to be so intimately tied into it that it's kind of hindering characters now. And I don't like that. I don't like it when prequels or like stuff like this does that. I don't want it to affect the main story in that way. That's where it kind of frustrated me a bit. But the Kelsier stuff in this is also really cool though. I'll put it there. I like it when authors make bold decisions and stick with it. For example, characters' last interactions, right? And then they include, oh no, but that wasn't their last interaction. This was their last interaction. I'm like, no, just keep it like that because it loses some of the gravitas of the previous books. Enough about Secret History. Alloy of Law. This is fun. I think Mistborn Era 2 is Sanderson playing with genre, and I appreciate that. It's fun. Like, when I read Era 2, I like the characters. Wax is a vanilla protagonist. He's the most vanilla protagonist in the Cosmere, but Wayne is cool. And Steris and some of these other characters are fine. But I'm invested when I'm reading it, but once I put the book down, I don't really think about these characters. When I finish Stormlight Archive, I'm thinking about Kaladin and Dalinar's journeys and their stories and how awesome they are. I don't really think about Wax or anything. These characters don't really stick with me once I put the book down. So that's kind of my issue with Era 2. It doesn't really stick with you. It's fine, it's fun. Yeah, I'll put it right behind Dawn Shard. Shadows of Self. This Shadows of Self is what I feel about it's the difference between Great Hunt and Eye of the World. Shadows of Self is better than its predecessor. It's better than Ally of Law, but I still have some of the same issues. Like I'm still not really that invested in characters. And Marassi's whole storyline with that police force, why did we spend so much time with Marassi in this book? We get more Marassi in this book than we do Wayne, which people don't acknowledge, and that's kind of an issue. Marassi is fine, but that storyline, it didn't work for me. I'm gonna put it right there. Slightly better than Alley of Law. Alright, Bands of Mourning. I actually really like Bands of Mourning. Bands of Mourning was fun. I think changing it from like detective noir, kind of this Western style, to a treasure hunt story was the best decision Brandon Sanderson could have made for Era 2. The treasure hunt type story works so well here. All of our characters are together. The banter's popping. It worked for me. This worked for me. I put it right behind Rhythm of War. Emperor's Soul is one of the best things to come out of the Cosmere. It's so good. It's just I can't remember much of it, but I remember it being so good. So like, gosh, it's been so long since I've read this, but I remember it being fantastic. And the way this is structured is that this person has like it's a race against time, right? She has a limited amount of time to produce something, and as each chapter goes by, we're getting closer and closer to that deadline. The structure is beautiful. It moves so well. Shai's relationship with Gaotona, one of the best. I think this storyline was done better in Emperor's Soul than it was in Rhythm of War with Navani and Raboniel. I really liked Navani and Raboniel, but I think it was done much better in Emperor's Soul, and I think it had a lot more weight to it. And just the beautiful like message of how Shai's artistry in forging and creating this soul and creating the Emperor's new soul, and the fact that the title is the Emperor's Soul, right? And she imbued some of her own self in her artistry, right? That's what artists do. And in a lot of ways, the Emperor's Soul is now Shai's soul, and I think it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's like I'm putting it next here. Shadows for Silence in the Forest of Hell. This is one of the best examples of what tension can do for a story. This short story is so intense. Every page I'm constantly turning it. I'm so emotionally invested in the conflict at heart. There's like we get like flashback with silence here. Just the idea of having a middle-aged single mother as a protagonist, and she's also a famous assassin. What a great concept! The world of Threnody, I think it's Threnody, right? Is so gothic and ghouly. I really want Brandon Sanderson to explore this world more because I love it. This short story blew me away. It just blew me away. It has some of my silence already. 60 pages, one of my favorite Cosmic characters of all time. It's so intense. Her backstory with her grandmother is imbued so well within the climax of this book. It's almost perfect. I won't put it in essay because it is a short story, and I put it. Oh, Well of Ascension is great though. Well of Ascension is really good. But Oathbringer is kind of bad. I'll put it here. Do you know what I don't like? Six of Dusk. So everything on here is fine. Even Allomancer Jack, Elantris, Hope of Elantris. I would say 5 out of 10 or above. Everything in the Cosmere that I've read is an above average book. Apart from Six of the Dusk. I did not enjoy Six of the Dusk. It's, for me, a below average short story. There's something about this that doesn't work for me. I wasn't invested in the main character. I didn't even remember. His name was Dusk, right? I barely remember this. The woman he was with, I don't think her journey from being this person who wanted to exploit this environment to someone who sympathizes with it and is now an environmentalist, that journey didn't work for me. The AVRs are a cool concept, but I think that concept works better for a story that's more about hunting, like instead of kind of this environmental thing that Brandon Sanderson wants to do here. And the end twist in this book didn't work for me. I think that's my Cosmere ranking so far. Maybe I'll update this when I actually end up reading White Sand, or when we get more Cosmere books released. But for the most part, that is my opinions on the Cosmere. That is my Cosmere ranking. Tell me, guys, in the comment section below, what are your rankings? Tell me if you disagree with me. I want to hear your opinions. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Think you're doing another one for the Wheel of Time once I finish that. I think that'll be really cool to see, especially because I'm just reading Wheel of Time right now, so my opinions will be so fresh. I know right now my opinions are so vague on all of the Cosmere stuff because it's been ages since I finished the Cosmere, but I'm trying to remember as much as I can. But for the most part, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.